Hi, everybody. I'm Mel Doerr, the Aloha shirt psychic from chilly Chicago. It was 1 degree here this morning, and right now, as we speak, I think it's 10. Speaking of chili, I made a big pot of chili to keep warm, and I'm so excited. I've got Aiden in the house. Hi, Aiden.
Hi.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yes, all the music. Oh my gosh, chilly Chicago. It's chilly Dallas up in here. It's been snowing all day and the roads are closed, restaurants are closed. I've just been stuck in here eating chips.
Eating chips,
Yes.
college diet.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so if you want to get a hold of Aiden, how do they do it, Aiden?
Well, they can go to my website, aidenreadstarot.com, and I have certain little forms for you to fill out if you want to book a reading, if you want to do a collab with me, or if you just want to contact my email. My email is aideninc2. It's AIDENINC2 at gmail.com.
The the number two.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And your YouTube is
My YouTube is Aiden Reads Tarot.
cool. Aiden said he was 19, and I started doing my readings when I was 18, and I'll be 69 in March. So do the math. It's a long time. So I used to be the young kid on the block. Now I'm the grandfather. Um, how did you get started in your psychic work?
Well, I've always known that I've had some gifts, even when I was like a little toddler walking around the house. Everybody says that, young people like under the age of like 7 always have like really good psychic abilities. And that kind of goes away after a while, after you kind of grow up and realize that the world is trying to indoctrinate you into being normal. So, like, there's so many different things that the society will do to like take away that creativity. And that really happened for me. I feel like as a toddler, as a young person growing up, my eyes were really open to a lot of things. And the more I got older, the more that the world started to hammer in ideas into my head, hammer in beliefs that weren't right into my head. And it took me a few years to realize that, maybe the world doesn't know, maybe the society that I grew up in doesn't know what's right, what's best for me. So I had to like pave my own path.
The filters come
And
up. When we're kids, I think we're innocent, we're naive, and that's good. And we don't have all that junk and all the filters and all the stuff. It's just go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
yeah, no, it's fine. So yeah, I got started last year. I think it was spring. I've been on YouTube for about 9 months now. And basically, I first got into tarot. I have my deck right here. Um, I was watching a video and it popped up on my YouTube recommended page. And I was like, oh, what is this? And I was like, this is really cool. And it was a tarot reading on one of my favorite people in the world, Taylor Swift. I love Taylor Swift. And I watched the video. I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. This is amazing. So later that night, I got in my car and drove to Barnes& Noble and got my first deck of cards. So like I'm very spontaneous. Like if I have an idea, I'll just go out and do it right then. So that's how I first got into this world. And then after that, I started watching a lot of tarot readers on YouTube. So I first got my deck probably 4 or 5 months before starting my YouTube channel. And, I was watching all these readers on YouTube, like Autumn from Black and Orange and um, a lot of other people. So it's been a really fun experience. And I'm recently getting into mediumship stuff. I've taken a few, yes, I've taken a few classes and, it's so interesting. I remember I was practicing my mediumship in one of the classes and I connected with this woman and it was this person's grandmother. And basically, I was like, I kind of like painted a picture in my mind. I got like this woman in high heels standing next to a record player, and I could like picture it out perfectly. And I was like, did your grandma like have a record player next to the window, next to like a glass sliding door, something like that? And they were like, yeah, that's one of my favorite memories with my grandma before she passed. And I was like, oh my gosh, just standing around the record player dancing. I think that's so cool. So that's really how I got into all of this. So yeah.
Um, when you were a kid, were you afraid of the dark?
Yes,
How old
definitely.
were you actually?
So much. I remember waking up, I've talked about this before, but I remember waking up in the middle of the night a lot and having night terrors. Like I would wake up and be scared to death. I would go downstairs speaking gibberish, and my parents would be like, "What is going on with him? Is he like possessed by the devil or something like that?" And the next morning, I wouldn't remember any of it. But yeah, actually I've always slept with like a light in my room. Like I keep this light on when I sleep in my room. Like I still don't like the dark. So I've always like not liked being in the dark.
Most people that really, I mean, I think we all have intuition. I use the word intuition, psychic, mediumship, all interchangeably. But I think, we all have ESP. We all have intuitive ability, but some of us have it more than others. And for those of us who have it more than others, I call that the gift. And typically, the reason I ask that question about being afraid of the dark is typically people that really have the gift as a child, they didn't like to sleep in the dark, and also have night terrors. And I was just going to ask about sleep paralysis. In other words, um, it's like you think you're waking up and you can't move. Everything seems paralyzed. And it seems like it's lasting for an eternity, but it's really only about 10 or 15 seconds. I mean, that happened to me a lot. It still does sometimes. And, you know, um, metaphysically, we can say we're traveling out of body and we're just coming back in and we kind of can't move. But, you know, um, psychologists and medical people, scientists can explain it scientifically as well. It just means that when you're in deep stage 5 sleep, you're paralyzed, except for your eyes, rapid eye movement, you're dreaming. And then what happens is your brain, and when you're in that deep sleep, that stage 5 sleep, that rapid eye movement, all your voluntary muscles are paralyzed. And then what happens is you start to go through a different stage of sleep, back to a stage 2 or 3, and your brain is going into a stage 2 or 3, but part of it's still in stage 5, so you feel like you can't move. It's that's how science explains it, but I like the metaphysical explanation better. If that happens to anybody, nothing will hurt you. Don't, just kind of scary. It's very scary, but just kind of work through it. But every time I would get one of those, a different psychic door would open up for me. So it's interesting to talk to other people who have the gift. I started my readings when I was 18. So as I said, I've been at it a long time. Um, what was it? What I knew what it was like for me growing up in the late 60s and early 70s, being gay and thinking I was the only one, and being psychic. And bad enough to be gay in the South back in those days, but to be psychic on top of it. If I had a nickel for every time people told me that what I did was of the devil and it was, all that stuff, I was like, oh my God. What was it like for you?
Um, well, I recently, like probably in the last year, the last 10 months, started my YouTube channel and
Sorry.
started my YouTube channel. And um nobody knew before this that I was into any of this or that I had these gifts. So when my parents found out, they thought I was going insane. They thought um that I was like worshiping the devil. And they're like very big Christians, and they'll say stuff all the time. They'll be like, "Oh my gosh, do we need to get you a exorcism?" And I'm like, no, I need to get you an exorcism. But but yeah, It's been a lot. It's been a lot dealing with other people's perceptions of this work, what I do. And I just push it all to the side. I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm just here to have fun and make people happy. So, um,
And do the work.
and do the work. Yeah. Yeah.
People tell me what I do is not of the church. I have a blessing from the Pope for being a psychic, but Pope John Paul II. Um, I don't know. It's been rewarding for me, very rewarding. So if I had
Yeah.
to do over, I'd probably do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, my feeling is you're gonna get more and more into your psychic work, and at some point I see you writing and getting publication and doing some public speaking and all the above. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
there were times when I tried to put aside my psychic work. I was a social worker in geriatrics for 10 years, but I did my psychic work at nights and on the weekends. But I would say I'm not going to do it anymore. And then I always call back to it, always. And so it's nice to see somebody young who's doing the work.
Yeah. It's so difficult finding people my age sometimes that do this type of stuff. I've gotten DMs and emails from people that are my age, and now I'm friends with them. So I'm glad that, some people are watching me that's younger. I recently started this new show on my series called Aiden and the Starseeds, where I bring in someone from like TikTok that is like my age and they do the same thing that I do. And for me, I love introducing new people to my audience on YouTube because, especially younger people, because I think the young people are the future. And I think that my generation is going to change a lot and be like a driving force into like all these things that need to be changed in the government and the world and society. So I love the idea behind my new series. So
It sounds like a great series. I think it's
yeah.
okay. Uh, I was going to say something. I forgot what it was. I was so interested in what you were saying.
Yeah.
So, how does it feel to come out of the psychic closet?
Kind of scary because it's this day and age, it's kind of easier, I bet, to come out of the psychic closet than it was like 30, 20 years ago. Because I think with social media, these ideologies get pushed to a lot of people. And with that, you get people's minds expanding, people's minds opening. And I think it's really cool that, you know, maybe in like 10, 20 years, it's going to be even more popular, even more accepted. So I'm glad I get to be a young person and leading or like trying to help others my age understand what this is all about.
I was 12 years old when I learned the word psychic. My mother worked in a bowling alley as a waitress, and there was a lady there who could read. She was older and she was a nice lady, but people shied away from her because she wasn't very pretty, but she was pretty on the inside. I didn't see the outside. And she would take the cards and she said, "You're going to be able to do this one of these days." And she said, "There's the number." I think she said, how did she say it? Maybe I was 12, or no, maybe it was 11. She said the number 7, you'll do it in 7. Could be 7 days, 7 weeks. And then she started kind of showing me the cards, regular playing cards. And she said, "You're also a medium." And she explained that. And all of a sudden things started falling in place. And I remember, like, my grandmother bought me a Ouija board. Now, everybody out there, please don't start about Ouija boards. My grandma and I used to do Ouija board. And we didn't call in any bad spirits or anything like that. And so, it just opened a lot of, her giving me that reading, if you will, opened a lot of doors. And back in those days, it was very closeted, and nobody knew really. They back in those days they called us fortune tellers, which I don't like that term. But anyway, it was a different time, and it wasn't as out then as it is now. But I remember coming to Chicago. My mother had a cousin from here, and I moved here when I went to college for a year, and then I quit to help take care of my grandfather. And when he died, I moved to Chicago for 2 years. And I had cousins here, And we started going to the spiritualist, Reverend Wanda McClenahan. She was a spiritualist minister in Northbrook. And then we started going to the first Temple of Universal Law in Chicago. It was a spiritualist church. It's not there anymore. And I remember studying in message circles years ago, they called them seance, and learning all about mediumship. In those days, in the spiritualist way, everything is looked at as a form of mediumship. And so it, and all the really great mediums back then, Reverend Charlotte Bright, Reverend Harry Hilborn, Reverend Schoenfeld, I kind of was around all of them. And it just kind of, that's how I started learning. And it was really neat. It then going to, like some spiritualist camps and things like that. And it just gave me a whole different way to look at things. I don't know if I believed all of it, but I believed a lot of it. And so here we are,
Yeah.
it was a little bit different back then, but I'm glad that it's become more open.
Yeah. I
No,
think one of my next goals is to be in a room with people like-minded with me, because there's not a lot of people that I live next to. I'm in college, so I'm in my dorm right now, and I'm currently locked inside from the cold, freezing weather. And there's not really a lot of people around here that think the same way I do. And so one of my next goals is to be in a room filled with people with like-minded people. So I hope to do that soon.
one of these days we'll all get together and do something like that.
I know I've always wanted to or like go to like a little, like maybe like a cruise, or like um I don't know, a get together somewhere. I think that's so special. So one of my bucket list.
A lot of people think that mediumship is talking to the dearly departed, but the spiritualists think that that mediumship comes in many different forms. Now they call it channeling, but like the different clairs and the clairvoyance is not predicting the future. It just means clear sight, the clairaudience, the clear tactus, the clairgustance, all of the clairs. And so, to them, I could say to us, because I still I'm a little bit spiritualist. I'm not religious, but all the different forms of ESP or psychic ability, we just look at as mediumship, because the definition of a medium, the information comes from spirit. So the medium gets for what comes from spirit and passes it on. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a dearly departed.
Yeah, I think so. Recently, I've realized that I'm a channeler. I can channel information. And I can't believe I didn't realize this before, but like I love writing music. I am minoring in music production. So I love writing music, and I think, and it's always been like I don't even think about what I'm writing. It just comes out, and it always just sounds good to me. And I'm like, here, whatever. So I think I channel a lot of things, and I'm a film major. So I'm majoring in film down here in my college. And that's another thing. I love writing screenplays. And I think that, I channel all this information, and I'm like, how can this come from my brain? So yeah.
Well, what happens is what I teach my students is we get the information and we think, is this me thinking this? Is this coming from spirit? And one of my students called that analysis paralysis. And the bottom line is whether or not you think you're thinking it, or the bottom line is if it's coming from spirit, the important thing is to write it down, just give the message. That's the hardest thing for me to get my students to do, is to step out of the analysis paralysis, or the fear. What will people think? What if I'm wrong? What if? And it's hard to just give the message. You have to use discernment, of course, but it looks like you're doing a good job with it.
Well,
Glad
thanks.
that I'm just glad that you're not allowing, my grandmother used to say, when your name's written on the bathroom wall, it means you're important. And so I didn't, so now as when I'm this age, and people say, oh, what do you do? And I say, I'm an intuitive. What do you see for me? An appointment, I mean, and if people, I've had people, I don't believe in that. I could be cocky and say, I really wasn't asking for your opinion. And I say, well, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and I understand that. But it's not going to stop me from doing my work. And so I'm glad that you're not letting the opinions of others stand in your way from doing your work.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely taken a lot for me to not be impacted by what other people say. I went to a private school when I was younger for elementary school, and that was really the sole cause of who I am today because I was bullied a lot. I was bullied a lot in elementary school, middle school, high school, maybe still in college. I don't know if people are talking about mean behind me in my back. Wait, I can't talk. If people are talking mean behind my back, like I don't know, but I've been bullied, I've made fun of, teased my whole life, and it's like I have pretty thick skin, so it's taken a lot of practice for me. Yeah.
It's funny, when I was in high school, I cut school for 3 weeks once in a row because I'd go to school and get beat up. I was called, sissy, queer, faggot, all those horrible words. And I thought, boy, I just stay at home because I felt like a sanctuary. And years ago, we had truant officers. If you missed too much school, the truant officer would call. So the truant officer called. He hasn't been in school. I'm like, why didn't you go on to school? And I couldn't say because, well, I did say because I'm getting bullied, but why are you being bullied? You need to stick for yourself. Well, I'm trying to. But back in those days, you couldn't come out and say I'm gay, much less I'm psychic. And then because I cut school, I was viewed as a behavioral problem, but I was always good in school. But I remember there was a math teacher who took me under his wing. He was a police officer, but a teacher as well. And I I told him about my psychic gift, and I told him about my sexuality. And he just was such a wonderful mentor. And he's one back then that said there's a book called The Gift of Prophecy by Jean Dixon. She was a psychic. She predicted Kennedy's death. And I read it, and it was like, yeah. And, I was still bullied and all of that, but it gave me a little bit of courage and strength to go on. So I think
Yeah,
I'm convinced that he was a guardian angel sent.
definitely. Yeah, there's been like so much I learned from teachers. I've always actually wanted to be a teacher. I think they're so underrated, underpaid, underappreciated. And I always wanted to be a teacher, but I don't really see it happening for me. Maybe like not in like a traditional way of like me being in a classroom,
You
but
can
like
teach
I've
intuitive development at some point.
yeah, yeah. So I mean,
You
I
do
I
well
really
with your film career and your writing career and your intuitive career. Maybe you should write a screenplay about a psychic who works on murder cases of missing people.
oh yeah. I'll cast you, Mel, as one of the characters. You
Oh,
know
my
what?
mind is ready for anti-Mel. I'm teasing.
Yeah, you know what? I've realized. So I've watched a few like psychic TV shows and stuff like that, and it always feels.
Oh, Hollywood next.
I know it feels off to me all the time, and I'm like, there's so many people like even on YouTube that they can write a show about, and it'd be like real content.
Community.
Um,
Uh,
yeah.
Let me go back to, I think I learned, I remember back when I was in high school, I used to pray, please don't let me be gay. I didn't, the word homosexual, we didn't have the word gay back in those days. And please, this gift, let me understand it. Um, but now I realize it helped make me strong, and it was who I was and who I am. So how did you deal with the bullying?
When
You don't
people,
deal with it.
yeah, when even today on YouTube, people are can still be mean. I get comments saying you're too young, um, take a few years.
Here's what you tell
And
them. Here's what you tell them. You tell them, I'm an old soul and I forgot more than you ever knew.
I love that. Part of my thing is when I first joined YouTube, I wanted to show people that it's okay to learn. And for a long time, my channel name was Aiden Learns Tarot, and I'm still learning to this day. So I really do think it's important to realize that every single person that does this is still learning, no matter how long they've done this for. There's still new things to come. And even though I'm young, doesn't mean I'm um not not well versed in the things that I do. I think that it's really important to realize like I don't know. So I get emails sometimes that are really mean from people that aren't into any psychic stuff, and
That
they're
are
like
or are not.
that aren't, and
You
they
know,
say some
don't even
really mean
respond. The
things.
best thing to do is just block them.
Yeah, they say some really mean things, and it doesn't really get to me because I've heard it all before. So my
You
best
know,
advice.
I'm going to jump in here. You say it doesn't really get to you, but when I get nasty comments or people that say it's a constructive criticism and really it's denigrating and negative, like I've got a nervous giggle, and somebody said that I like you, but you're nervous, but your laugh is irritating to me. To me, that was mean. And then the person unsubscribed, but who cares? Um, well, but words are powerful and they can hurt. And then when I called the person on it, I got this email that, that I hurt their feelings and how could I? And I'm like, wait a minute, you just insulted me. You didn't think you did, but you did. And so, it still bothers me a bit. So I guess I'm not questioning what you said, but what I'm saying is, but doesn't it bother you a little bit when you get that nastiness?
You know, it might a little bit depending on how volatile it is. But I've heard a lot. I've been bullied a lot. So sometimes I'm just like, well, whatever. So it doesn't really get to me that much. But there are some times where I'll get like long, long emails of like people just bashing me for no reason. And I'm just like, are you okay? So yeah, I mean, yeah,
Or you
it's
can
kind of
always tell
crazy.
them, you can always tell them, bless your heart.
Yes. Bless your heart. I hope you get well soon.
You know what that means, right?
Yes, I do know what that means.
In the South where I come from, we say, bless your heart. It ain't pretty. Uh,
Definitely.
um, I think when you're bullied, I'm very sensitive to it still. And we get thick skin, but the more people bully me, the more determined I am to do my work. It's like you ain't gonna stop me. And so,
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, in an odd sort of way, it can be a motivating force, albeit it could be a very cruel one. I'm sorry you're going through that, but maybe we can learn. I'm learning every day, and maybe part of our work is to help people who are being bullied and letting them know that they're not the only ones, because the rate of suicide among people who are bullied is huge. And so I'm very big on suicide prevention. So I'm
Yeah.
just glad that you stepped out of the fear.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you.
And I'm glad you're doing your YouTube channel. And you all out there, if you're going to make a comment, I prefer not for it to be called a positive criticism, because to me that sounds negative. How about a positive suggestion?
I love that.
And Aiden might be 19, but let's honor him because he does have a strong gift. And it doesn't matter what age you are, you can still have your talents and your abilities. And he's honing his gift the same as we're all honing ours. And I think when we think we can't learn anything, then that shows that we're foolish, because we can always learn. And the day you stop learning is the day you cross into spirit. Then when you get into spirit, you learn more.
Yeah. Yeah. I still see myself like I don't even think I'm even 10% to where I'm gonna end up. So I wanted to open this YouTube channel just to show people that, hey, I'm learning and maybe you can learn a little bit of something too. So
Or we can learn
I
together.
yeah, yeah. So maybe I am a teacher after all.
Uh, Bingo.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
you know, um, Aiden came up with an idea that he and I are going to, well, we'll do numerous shows together, but at least once a month to come up with the predictions for the month. And I said, he texted me, I said, that's a great idea. So what are some of the things you're feeling for the month of February?
Okay. So I think it's gonna be January was so slow, wasn't it? Did you feel like it was like dragging on for a long time?
Um, it seems like it went slow on some levels, but fast on others. It was just like,
Yeah.
and the uncertainty, I think, politically and all of that, and people are tired, and when is justice going to be done, and all of that. So politically, I see some indictments coming in the month of February, and I think they're
Yeah.
overdue. But go ahead, Aiden. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
So one of the things I picked up when I was thinking about this earlier is that I would call February an oopsie month, an oopsie month. So don't be surprised if someone that is in the public spotlight that you love, if they make a mistake that you might not agree with. Because I think that it's a sign that to remind you that not everybody's perfect. Even if they have millions of followers on social media, even if they're in the highest position of power, doesn't mean that they're perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. And I do think February is going to be a month where we see people, like I said, with a lot of power, a lot of people watching them make a mistake. And you might not agree with their mistake or what they might say if they have like a slip of the tongue. But I think that we're going to see some people in these positions of power make a mistake, say something they didn't mean to say something that they didn't have, the background, the education on before they said it. So that's one of the things I saw for February.
Well, the idea is think before you speak. But so when you said that, I wrote month of accountability. So, when you're in public eye, we all make mistakes. And I think a mistake, provided you own it and own up to it, and genuinely try to change it, I think people get that. But when you keep making the same mistake over and over, then obviously it's not a mistake. So I think it's going to be a month of accountability, uh,
Hmm.
people being accountable. Or if they're not, but by the indictments I see coming down and things like that, is, wait a minute, you might have been the president, you might have been this, you might have been that, but you're not above the law. And and all some of these politicians who are promoting hate, like in Florida, to Satan, I call him, is saying you can't teach African American history. He's restricting freedom of speech, and he's going to be held accountable for that. So I see a lot of
Definitely.
accountability. This is the start of accountability in the month of February.
Yeah. I think, honestly, I think the whole year is going to be a very accountable year. Like, I one of the biggest liars to me in politics is George Santos. I feel like he'll make everything up, like his background, everything. And I feel like there's gonna be a lot more stuff that comes out this month. I think like the past day or two, it was revealed that he has like a karaoke app where he uploads covers of karaoke songs. And I don't know, it's crazy. So there's like a lot more gonna come up about him in this month.
I see him removed from office. I wrote something before we started, and I was going to bring up Santos. I'm glad you brought it up. Um, will he leave office? I see indictments against him, but I heard McCarthy, who's Trump's puppet, say, well, Santos will be removed from office if the Health Ethics Committee finds that he's broken the law. I'm like, oh, McCarthy, wash your hands of it. And I looked up Health Ethics Committee. The good thing about the House Ethics Committee is like half Democrat, half Republican. And I don't think McCarthy is going to want to put some moderate Republicans on there, because they're not going to go along with his agenda. And so I'm thinking, okay, yeah, you're saying that because you can stack the committee with people that are the MAGA people, the Trump people, and they're going to want to keep him in because he does what you all want. but I see him out of office, I see him under indictment, and you're right, there's a lot more stuff that's going to keep coming out about him. And
Definitely. Yeah, this will not be a good year for him, for Marjorie Taylor Greene, for Donald Trump, especially for
how about
um
McCarthy,
Jenny Thomas.
how about
Yeah.
Speaker of the House, McCarthy?
Oh yeah. I don't see him being there for long at all.
But yay. At some point, I think that Beto is going to be I think it's Beto, right? I see him in a big government position. I don't know if it's governor of Texas or a senator or something, but I see him more like.
Yeah. I see him in the Senate. I think that, I don't see him being president I think he'd make a great president, but I don't see him being president one day. I think he's going to be like one of the leading factors that turns Texas purple, turns Texas blue. So definitely he's in for the long haul.
I've been seeing a purple Texas, but it's going to take a while.
Yeah, maybe 2 more election cycles.
Oh wow, that's soon, huh?
I do think so. 2020 or maybe towards 2028, towards the end of the decade.
Oh, cool. Okay, I got some questions here if you don't mind. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. Um, here. Okay, Richie wants to know. Hi, Richie. Richie always asks questions. This is a good one. Hi, Mel and Aiden. Just curious how this works with asking questions to spirit. Are some topics better suited for angels and guides, or will they both answer questions that you ask them? Is it easy to tell the difference between angels and guides when communicating? Well, I'm an old spiritualist from way back when. So I use the word angel and guide interchangeably because they're helpers. Um, you know, asking questions of spirit is not like an Aladdin's lamp. It's not like you rub it and get the answer you want. Sometimes they give us an answer and we don't want to hear it. And so we think that they haven't heard us what we want, but it doesn't work that way. So I don't know if there's any better topics than others. It just, you have to be open to the message that they give you.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
So they're only here to help you. And that's their
Might
one
not be,
primary.
it might not be the way you want things.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's their primary reason for being there, to help you understand. They're not going to give you information that will hurt you. Everything that they tell you or give to you or help you with is for the betterment of yourself and people around you. So I kind of like to view it. I love metaphors. I love saying things visually. So I kind of view it as like a mailbox. Send anything you want to that mailbox and someone will get back to you in 3 to 5 business days. So
Or it could be instant message.
yeah, like a text. You send a text and you get it right back. So
That's a good analogy. Okay,
thanks.
so Rose Baltazar says, awesome. I love Aiden. Aiden is helping me, you all, learn Canva, and he gave me a wonderful tutorial along with Kevin Chandler and Kevin Lewis, but Aiden gave me a long tutorial on StreamYard. And he helps me set up my StreamYard stuff and puts the thumbnails on my YouTube community board. Everybody's loving those, by the way, Aiden. So
Oh,
thank you.
thank you. I thought it encapsulated your Aloha shirt name pretty well. So yeah,
Aloha,
and thank you, Rose.
aloha is a Hawaiian word. Means hello, goodbye, love. But alo means the ALO, the center of all creation, the center of everything. Ha means breath. So when I say aloha, I'm giving you the breath from the center of God, the center of all creation. And that's why I love my aloha shirts. And I started with Aloha Shirt Psychic. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so cool.
okay, Mary Larson, were the police who killed, and I'm probably mispronouncing his name, so if I am, please forgive me. Were the police who killed, I think it's Tyree, uh, experiencing steroid rage? The answer is no. They were experiencing emotional rage. It's like, if you're in a crowd and one person gets up, everybody gets worked up. And they suspended their critical thinking and the anger took over. And somehow in their heads at that particular moment, they justified in their heads them beating this young man. And it wasn't justified. It was murder. It clearly was murder. So I think that's where better training comes in. And I heard some of the tapes and what they were calling that young man. It was just horrible. But, it was this group kind of hysteria mentality that took over. And I'm certainly not condoning it. What they did was horrific. And I think people need to be aware of how that mob, it was almost like a mob action, if you will. What do you pick up on it?
Yeah, so I kind of went through the comments earlier, and I was drawn to certain comments, and this is one of the ones that I like sat on and wrote a little thing about, and I've got the same exact thing you did. I wrote down things accelerated very fast. Like I don't think there was, like you said, it just like it worked up like a volcano, it just exploded. I think the police will walk away from their jobs or like get fired, and there will be a fair
There's been
trial.
5 of them have been indicted for murder.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So definitely like I don't know anything about any of this. So I definitely do think that they're going to be held accountable, and there's going to be it's going to be like a for the police department that they were in. I think it's going to be a lesson that just because they're police officers doesn't mean they're perfect. Doesn't mean that they're, going to obtain the law.
The month of accountability.
Yes, that's the title. February, the month of accountability.
Thank you. I think just because people are politicians like Santos or Trump or Supreme Court justices or whomever, governors, police officers, does not make them above the law. There has to be accountability. And I think we got away from accountability. And I see, March is then starting the month of truth. But we'll talk about March.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, yes.
Laura Wright, non-political question. Reality stars Todd and Julie Chrisley recently reported to federal prison. They were found guilty of conspiracy to defraud banks out of more than $30 million in fraudulent loans and evading taxes. Wow. This is an amazing fall from grace for the Christian TV stars, for televangelists. I find that karmic. They have maintained their innocence and are waiting for appeal. They have always said that a former employee named Mark Braddock set them up after he was fired. Just curious what you see. Are they innocent? Their prison sentences are long. I will not judge on their innocence or guilt. But what my guides are telling me is if they were head of this Christian TV stardom network, whatever it was, then they clearly had to know what this employee was doing. And if they weren't, if something wasn't right, how could he set them up? So, who was minding the store?
Yeah. Who was the boss of who? That really like that is the question. I don't think that honestly, if you have an employee, they shouldn't be given that much power to like ruin your life, if you know what I mean. So honestly, I don't know. I think they might be getting what's coming to them.
I heard justice has been served. That's what my guides told me. And
Yep.
I'll admit
Yep.
that. Goohoo.
Definitely.
I love this name, Goohoo. I love that. What do you see happening in February? Well, the month of accountability, a lot more inclement weather coming, a lot more flooding, a lot more storms. You said Texas is snowing right now. So
Yes. Yes.
my guides had shown me that Texas was going to have a snowstorm again this year that was going to, with the power grid and the grid in Texas where it's at. So you're
Don't
living.
be surprised if my electricity goes out in the middle of this from the
Uh-oh.
power grid.
All right. So I don't know. Guhu, I don't know this. How will Rihanna's Super Bowl performance go this month?
Oh, fun question. I love Rihanna.
Okay, well,
Um,
you answer it then.
okay. I so if you don't know who Rihanna is, she has a lot of good songs. She has that one that goes, Love on the Brain. I love that song. So she hasn't performed in like
Singing
six or
voices
seven.
like mine. Stick to writing.
So Rihanna hasn't performed in 6 or 7 years. So she's coming out of hiatus from
Yeah.
like being a mother, from doing makeup, from doing clothing lines. So I think it's gonna go well. This is one of the other ones I wrote down a little bit of stuff on. I wrote down, I think that Super Bowl performances are always, supposed to be top of the line performances. And I think that she won't disappoint. But I do think that she's going to be teaching a lesson through her performance, bringing awareness to something that is
Good.
important to her. And I don't, I don't know if this, I don't think this has happened recently where a message has been, you know, sent through to the millions of people that watch the Super Bowl. But I do think there's gonna be a lot of work in production. I think they put a lot of money into the production behind this. And I think that the message might be in the headlines for being controversial to people like Republicans. So it might be something around, you know, race or sexuality or
Or all the
what's,
other.
yeah. So I do think she's going to use her platform for good, but I do think people are going to enjoy her performance. So
I hear two words, friggin' phenomenal.
yes, yes.
I didn't say that word. That's what I was thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I think you're right. She'll give a message, and some of the ultra right, supposed Christian nationalists, MAGA people won't like it. Too bad. Isn't it
Yeah,
funny that they can say stuff that's racist and bigoted and get and think that everybody should go along with it? If you criticize them, it's like, oh my God, you're taking away my freedom. But yet when somebody else does something that is calling out the injustice or calling out the problems they're making, that MAGA people are making, they don't like it. They can't deal with it. The hypocrisy just blows me.
yeah. So hypocritical. Yeah, I mean, they use their Bible, their God, their whatever as like a source of this is what it says and you better follow it. Like I can be like, I wrote down a lot of things in here. You just read this and this is my source. So
But you
yeah,
know what? Here's the deal. The Bible says it, they say, but they don't follow that. They support people who lie, who are just about as non-Christian as they get under the guise of being Christian. Like you said, their God, because my God is a loving God and a caring God and a kind God and an inclusive God. That's the God I know.
definitely. And throughout the years, you know, especially men that like were in like I've read on this before, like when the Bible was created, I really do think that it was men that were in power that twisted it to kind of group people together and make other people outcasted from the group feel weaker.
People
And
wrote it. People wrote it. God didn't.
yeah, yeah. So definitely, I think that some of the messages in there, like be kind, are definitely true. But the second that the translations happen, where I don't know, it's been translated so many times that it gets twisted to hurt people. I think that's where it falls flat.
Well, it's a history book, but it's also a book of lessons. But I think people take one little sentence out of context, and you have to look at the whole context of what's trying to say, and it's open for interpretation. I mean, when the Bible was translated from Greek into English and other languages, there was a lot of mistranslation with certain words and things. So I think you're right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Kathy Reagan's hello, fabulous Melon. Thank you. Thanks, Kathy. My question is, well, this is good. Will there be more protections worldwide against whale hunting, exception of indigenous peoples? Currently, Japan is still participating in hunting these majestic mammals. Blessings to both of you. I do see legislation being passed worldwide to restrict hunting of whales in international water. I mean, why? I mean, indigenous peoples, I get it, but why would a country want to hunt whales? We don't no longer use their blubber for oil. There's other food sources. So I see a lot of protections worldwide put in place. And if a country is going to continue to hunt them, then I see economic sanctions put in place. I don't know. What do you see?
Definitely. I just pulled a 10 of swords, and to me, this is like the end. It's over. So hopefully, hopefully this year something comes out and they're held accountable for their actions. So I do think that as we get on more this decade, we're going to see a lot more changes environmentally for the better. So, yeah.
It's funny going to Hawaii as much as I do when you're out on the ocean and you see the whales breach and they're so majestic and big and beautiful. And then you see the dolphins and it's like, who could kill these wonderful creatures?
I know. I know. It's so sad.
It is sad. And I think a lot of these, here again, ultra right-wing people think that, the world is ours. God gave it to us. We have to be part of it and nurture it because it's our home and we're doing everything in our power to destroy it.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
like the whales and dolphins are so smart. They're probably like smarter than some humans that we know in politics right now. So definitely, how could someone hurt such a beautiful creature?
I agree. I totally agree. Um, I think, nature will always win. Always. We think that we can control it. Look what's going on with climate change, with what we've done. And, nature's winning.
Yeah, you know what? Earlier this, or I think in the past year, I think in November or October, I had like a whole channeling session where I just sat for like 30 minutes and got so much information about the next 5 years. And one of the things I see for this year is the Great Barrier Reef coming back to life.
The what,
And it's
sorry?
the Great Barrier Reef coming back to life. And I don't think it's going to be like naturally. I think it's a human led thing. I just watched a documentary on it after I wrote all this stuff down about how they're, planting more coral. And I think it's so beautiful because it's so sad to see such a big, vibrant environment go away. And I'm so glad that I think this year we're gonna see some news coming out like regrowth has started in this part of the coral reef. So I do think we're gonna see a lot more good things happen environmentally.
It's funny. During COVID, for example, in Hawaii, a lot of the fish came back. A lot of the coral started to come back because the tourists weren't there destroying everything. The cruise ships weren't out. We have to, I mean, I love to travel, but we have to really balance our environment. Um, and so, I'm excited in June, we're going to take a trip to Uganda to hike up to see the mountain gorillas, and they're coming back.
Oh
So
my gosh,
it's going to be really cool. I'm excited about it. It's about reconnecting with nature. All
that's
right,
so cool.
we got time for just a few more. Okay. Um, Victoria Olson, dear Mill and Aiden, will we recover justice from having been so slow to act against the congresspersons involved in the January 6th insurrection? The inmates are running the asylum. I like that. I think we've already answered that, though.
Yeah, accountability.
Yeah, accountability. Okay, Serena Everd. Will the evangelical church organization, whom the Reverend Shink exposed for manipulating the Supreme Court with cash and dinners for the decision to overturn Roe versus Wade, ever face charges or consequences? It seems religious organizations have been allowed to run wild in politics. I saw that interview that he gave, and it was like scary, where he talked to these Supreme Court justices, and they said, "Okay, we'll do the Roe v. Wade thing." And somebody, I think that, I don't know if somebody said to them, yeah, but then what this is going to lead to, in other words, other legislations and other decisions, and they said yes. And so I see that there's going to be investigations with that. And I think with the cash given to some of the members of the Supreme Court, it teeters on illegal, some of it is. And that's why I see new ethics and rules coming out for the Supreme Court and law that they have to follow.
Yeah.
This is going to be a big expose, a lot more than what's out there now.
Yeah.
What do you
I
think?
have no idea what any of this is talking about, so I'm just gonna get what I get. It's a blind reading. Uh, I I got the Three of Pentacles reversed, and to me, this is all about not being prepared for something coming. And some of like the keywords that I get in my head is like, um, they they weren't prepared. They're not prepared. They have a weak team. So I definitely do think that whatever's gonna happen is gonna be a surprise that they didn't see coming.
Good. This is a long one from Joanna Carson. Hi, Mel and Aiden. Are you up for a mystery? I'm always up for a mystery. A series of bizarre events have been happening at the Dallas Zoo over the past month. It started with cutting open the fencing on two animal cages. The monkeys stayed in their cage and did not leave. A leopard escaped her cage and the zoo had to be shut down. She was found lounging close to her habitat and was returned safely, but it did not end there. Last week, a rare vulture was found dead in its cage from a mysterious wound. Then today, two monkeys were found missing and they may have been kidnapped. Extra cameras have been installed and the police are on patrol. What are your impressions about these strange events? Will someone be caught and are more animals going to be victimized? I see like two or three people involved, and I do see them being caught and incarcerated.
You know what's so weird? I'm like 15 minutes away from the Dallas Zoo, and I've been a lot. So it's kind of scary to think that someone's out there trying to hurt animals. Um, but I wanna pull some cards on it and see what I get. So you think that people are doing this intentionally?
Yes.
Okay, let's see.
And sometimes if they're animal rights activists, I can see them, making a statement. It's still not cool. But that's not the way it is. That's not because there was a rare vulture that was killed. So whoever's doing this is probably you know, I see more than one person involved, but some probably QAnon people and ultra right wingers and
You know what? So weird. I do think that one or some of the employees are helping them like get access.
wow. But for what purpose? What's the motive?
I don't know. I don't know. And I get the card of the Ace of Wands reverse, and to me that's all about misdirected energy, if you know what I mean. I don't know.
No,
So
I
I,
get
I do think in the Seven of Pentacles, I think that maybe some of the employees or one of the employees that was hired wanted this to happen, and that's the reason they wanted to get hired at the zoo. Maybe someone at the gift shop, like not doing
so it's an
like the whole,
inside job.
yeah, yeah.
You know what? When you said that, I got cold chills. Oh, when I get a case, I'm gonna call you. You can help me on it. Okay. Um, hi Ron. Ron Brock says, hi Mel. Thank you and Aiden for doing this for us. Now with DA Bragg heating up to indict Trump, it's about time. What do you think? Who do you think will indict him first and how soon? There's so much that he's done. I don't even know who's going to indict him first. He's in hot water in Georgia. He's in hot water in New York. The whole Stormy Daniel thing, the whole rape thing, all of the above.
Yeah, you know what? I've always seen 2023 and maybe 2024 as being some of his last years to make a mess. And I think that's his karma for doing this. I don't know if he's gonna be like sent to jail. I don't see that. But I do think this is his karma for being such a horrible person, horrible leader, horrible politician. So I think maybe this is his punishment going away.
For being a
Yeah,
crook.
yeah.
Okay, Nancy Vasquez. We get this is the last one. What does the monsoon season look like for Arizona this year? I live in Phoenix, and last year we had strong rain and maybe thinking of getting a backup generator. Nancy, get the generator. You're going to need it.
Yes, I got the strength card. So definitely you're gonna have to have some patience, some strength to get through this. So I do agree with you, Mel, that you're in for a surprise this year.
Let's do one more.
Okay.
This one's really good. Teacher Barbara, Mel, and Aiden, why district just banned some of Toni Morrison's books for being too woke? We have to catalog every book we have in our classroom so parents can approve of our library or see what we have. I'm feeling sick. Any words of support? I'm not freaking out. I'm just angry. Well, Teacher Barbara, you have the right to be angry. I find it an abomination in states like Florida. Oh, excuse me. I find it an abomination when in states like Florida, you can't have Catcher in the Rye, or you can't have that's a classic book, or you can't have To Kill a Mockingbird. You know, it's not like they're putting porn books on the shelves there, or The Life of Rosa Parks. They can't even have that anymore. That's reeks of like the stuff they did in Nazi Germany. So you know what, Teacher Barbara, speak up and or have people around you speak up. This is going to go all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to overturn those decisions to not let certain books in the classrooms. That's what I see.
Yeah. Yeah, I do see them doing that and making the case you can only ban books if they're hateful speech. And Republicans have this in mind that hateful speech is anything woke, anything that they're not used to.
Well,
So,
some of the hateful speech they would allow. It's the
yeah, I mean, like if I was a teacher, I would ban books that like taught about like religion, like about Jesus. Like I wouldn't want to indoctrinate any of my students into believing that. So I think it's going to come down to the teacher. The
I think
teacher.
in Florida now they're trying to say if a teacher hands a student a book that's on the forbidden list, that you know, it can be a felony. They can spend X amount of years in jail for handing somebody a book.
Wow.
You know, it reminds me of Catholic school when there was a forbidden book list in the Catholic Church. And you know, everybody screamed about that, like, how could they forbid books? But look at what's going on. People are buying into this. Well, some people are, not all of us. And you know what really it boils down to, it's in my opinion, and what my guides are telling me, is trying to restrict our freedom of speech, and it won't work.
Definitely. The next few years, we're going to see a lot of government policies that are going to help this, separating religion and government. They shouldn't go together. My neighbors who aren't Christian shouldn't have to be governed the ways, like, shouldn't have to be governed that way.
We,
Like,
we all have the right to believe what we believe,
yeah,
but it doesn't give this small group the right to cram all their beliefs down our throat and make us follow their guidelines for us.
definitely, definitely.
Okay, Aiden, this has been great.
Yeah, I loved this. Thank you so much for wanting to do a collab with me. I appreciate that so much.
Let's do it again.
Of course.
I'd like
Yes.
to have you as a regular.
Oh, that's so nice. I love that.
You're
Thank
willing
you.
to do it.
Of course. And you'll be on my channel sometime soon.
Uh,
So,
anyway, all right. So to get a hold of you, tell us how your everybody go to Aiden's YouTube channel and thumbs up, subscribe. Um, you know, um, I'll put in the link below how to. Well, Aiden will help me put the link on there, but and go to my channel, thumbs up, subscribe. When I get to 18,000 subscribers, I will give away 3 free half-hour sessions. I do that every 1,000. So, okay, Aiden, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, you can go to aidenreadstarot.com or email me, aideninc2@gmail.com. And everything, like he said, will be in the description below. So make sure you go there. And if you want to see more of me, my YouTube channel is Aiden Reads Tarot.
All right, Aiden, thank you so much.
Of course, thank you for having me. This has been wonderful. I hope your viewers have learned something new. And you know, I am starting to encourage people. Um, so if wait, I don't even know what I'm saying. Anyways,
Just say it.
I think that sometimes with politics, we need to realize that when we're dealing with all this muckiness, sometimes it's nice to start looking at other things. That's why I don't really do that many political things in my channel because it really ruins the vibe, you know? So I love like reading on things that make people happy.
Well,
And
I think though people are afraid, and I think, when we do read on the politics, it helps them get through these times we've been through and some of the times coming. So I don't see that then as negative. I just see it as, helping people, navigate these uncharted waters.
yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. So if you're ever wondering and wanting to see some lighthearted stuff about, space or celebrities, that's where I come in. I love doing positive readings on
Well, how about
positive people.
something on science and space and exploration? That would be fun.
Ooh, yeah, yeah,
Yes. I don't do celebrities because I think their personal life is personal. And, I wouldn't want somebody, going public and giving predictions about my personal life. So, I've read a lot of celebrities and I used to be a social worker. So confidentiality is huge for me. But
yeah.
politicians, that's fair game.
Yeah, I mean, with celebrities, I don't read on like their personal lives. Like I love reading on future projects they might
That's
do
perfect.
or like how their next movie will be. So I don't really go into like that much detail of their personal life.
All right. So, all righty then. This has been so much fun.
Yeah.
Stay well. And when you get a chance, go to the grocery store and stock up on some food,
Yes.
like your parents. Did you eat today?
Oh my gosh, that happens every day. Anyways,
You stay well.
thank you.
All right.